and become a security architect to just do more stuff. I had no life anyways, so why not get a bigger paycheck at the end of the month? So I became a security architect that started building stuff, and soon enough I figured out that all this stuff that we used to do as a security community for the past couple of decades doesn't really scale. It didn't scale at that point 6 years ago, and there is no chance all these old things that we used to do would scale nowadays. So for a couple of years, I worked with those companies as a bug bounty hunter, penetration tester. I wanted to learn how they do things, and I've spent about 2 to 3 years hunting bugs, before even bug bounty was common. How many of you have heard about bug bounties, security bug bounties? Raise your hands. Okay, not that many. So if you want to earn easy cash, just type bug bounty programs. You sign up to those companies to find bugs on their websites, and they pay you money essentially for each bug you find. Sounds fascinating, sounds awesome if you find a bug in Facebook, Airbnb, LinkedIn, Google, and they pay you 10,000 bucks. That's awesome. But it's not that awesome if you join the security industry to do something more, to do something better. Especially not if you're a person that gets easily bored by doing stuff all over again. For 3 years, I was performing penetration tests and bug bounties for various companies, for a lot of companies, really, plenty of companies. And after a couple of years, I woke up and thought, hey, so I've been doing this for 3 years. I've earned quite a lot of money, which is awesome, but I don't really have this satisfaction I've had when I was a programmer. Why is that? Because I kept doing the same things all over again. Those companies don't improve as fast as I wanted them to improve. Most of the security community, most of us, by human nature, are very myopic. We don't want to look long term. We don't want to bother with thinking about the future. Because if it's fine today, if you are getting good paycheck, if you are happy with the job you are doing, then it's awesome. It's fine. And that's how I was into this matrix for 3 years. 3 years. I woke up and I was like, whoa. So I've wasted 3 years. And I'm saying wasted because I'm not going to regain those 3 years anymore. They are lost. They are over. And when I look at the impact I've made on the planet, I've made nothing. Because those companies, till this day, such as Facebook, those bigger ones, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Google, they pay bug bounty hunters on average $2 million per year for bugs reported by external researchers. So what's the goal of security research, security engineering? To optimize the business processes in the company, to make sure that the business operates, is not getting hacked, to minimize the cost of running business, essentially. That's what it is. Security isn't about hacking for the sake of hacking. It's just to make sure that this business operates, can innovate, improve stuff, create new software, new hardware, new firmware, whatever, just to make civilization better. And when they still pay those numbers, then how have we improved anything? How had I improved anything? I found a lot of bugs. I made a lot of money. What about it? So people ask me, why security? Why would I want to talk about optimization of all those processes? Why can't I just sit there, make money, and not bother about the future, not bother about security of those companies, not bother with the optimization of anything? Because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing this. Each couple of weeks, maybe months if you are lucky, depending on the country, depending on the scale of an attack, we have an information about some new data leakage. You have an information about some breach. So in the past 10 years, 15 years, since Troy Hunt started collecting that data, we had 5 billion passwords leaked to the internet. So that's a ton. If we consider that about 3 billion people have access to the internet, then we have 2 password leakages per each individual that's having an account online. That sucks. That's bad. Why is bad? Because we are reaching the point, in my opinion, we are reaching a point when security and privacy may stop matter. Because why do we do security? We want the business to operate because we don't want customers' data to leak. They're going to leave us, all that stuff. We have repercussions from governments, all that mess. If you get to the point where people look at those numbers and say, OK, so you have all those leakages, why would we want to invest in security anymore, given that all of our accounts were made public anyways. So you work in tech. I hope you change passwords once in a while. You use two-factor authentications, some of you. But most of the people in your social circles outside of IT don't know how to do it. So if you worry about privacy of your family, of your friends, anyone in your social circle, then you should worry about this thing, those stats, because they went through the roof. Huge corporations get hacked. Facebook, okay, it wasn't a hack, right? But it was privacy breach, huge privacy breach. We had Uber. They even tried to mask this incident by paying hackers money so they don't go to the media and not disclose this breach. So that sucks. And there is still hope, because when we think about privacy and data breaches and all that stuff, we look at all these huge companies. But they do not make up even any significant number of the data stored across other companies. We have, I don't know, 500 attendees at this conference. How many companies you represent? A ton. We have only a couple dozens here. So we still have a chance and opportunity to protect ourselves. And we can look at this from high-level perspective, like I do, but I'm crazy, so I realize that I'm talking about privacy, all that stuff, oh, let's go back to the caves, and all that sounds promising to me. But for you and your businesses, something else matters, something more low-level. What matters for you and your companies is how to decrease the cost of doing security, because you need to do security anyways. You need to protect yourself against breaches, because most SMBs and startups cannot afford to get breached. You get breached once, you don't have this huge reputation like all these companies, you don't have so much money in a bank account, you just get lost. Customers leave you, okay, it's over. So we all understand that we need to do security for reasons I've mentioned, or just for the practicality in terms of business operations. That's it. So how many of you are software engineers? Raise your hands. Okay. So what others of you do with your lives? How can you not be engineers? Like, are you test engineers, testers? How many testers? Huh, okay. So this is the era when it's the best time to be a software engineer, to be an engineer, to build something, to do stuff. But that's fine, okay. I know that many people act like Chicken the Little, they just want to raise hands, that's cool, you don't want to bother. How many of you work in security? Work in security? How many of you work in security department, regardless whether you work on security? They just pay you to do something with security. No one, okay, so that's fascinating. And I'm here because I'd love to come to this conference in 2 years from now and see everyone raising their hands and telling me, hey, we work in security. Because the old way of doing security doesn't scale anymore. There is no chance myself, one person can secure all the workload you've created. So not a single hand raised, unless I'm blind, and I'm semi-blind, so that may be this. But we just don't have enough manpower and womanpower to secure all the products, which is why we embrace this concept of moving security to the left, teaching everyone basic concept of security, so you don't need to waste on specialized security expert to come in and assess your product security-wise. It's not scalable. You know this already, because with testing, it's exactly the same thing. A ton of friction happens in each company between testers and software engineers, because software engineers are not eager to help you test their products. I see on your faces. I see it. I see it at each company I consult. Software engineers don't want to bother with testing, and testers hate software engineers, and likewise. That's how it is, and that's how it's not supposed to be, and we can do much better. In general, when someone's telling me I'm a software engineer, I'm a software tester, I'm working in IT, and you are a competent software engineer or software tester, then you have everything what's needed to become a security tester. There is no rocket science, there is no magic. For the past couple of decades, we as security engineers used to convince everyone and ourselves, especially our egos, that security is something special, that no one else can do this. It takes to be gifted, it takes to be a hacker, to have this hacker mindset, to be a genius, to work in the basement, to have no family, to have nothing else, and only then you can be a hacker. You can test software against security flaws, which is such a rubbish. I was a software engineer before. I used to build stuff. And then I joined, like I told you previously, bug bounty forces, bug hunting forces. I became a penetration tester. And I moved to be a builder, security architect, security engineer, you name it, it doesn't matter. In our industry, titles don't matter at all. And I've moved because I believe that this is so simple that it's going to fade away in a couple of years. So I had this small, noble vision, okay, let's build something better. Let's build something greater. Let's become a builder. Let's do some security as a security architect. But mostly, it was because I was afraid. I was afraid that in a couple of years, I'll have no job because it's too simple. It's too easy to test software against security flaws. So how come I'm here 5-6 years later after I became a security architect? I know math doesn't add up because I sucked at school. So I come back, I open my eyes, what do I see? Penetration testing, regular testing, security testing wasn't ever as popular as it is nowadays. It's booming. We have bug bounty platforms, we have penetration testing platforms, we have penetration testing tools. We have so many buzzwords that were meant to do something important. But in my opinion, it shouldn't exist in 2018. It's simple, it's basic. So when someone talks to you, internal security engineer, security expert, you name them, and they tell you how hard it is, that they understand your struggle, that it's fine to make mistakes, it's pure bullshit. They tell you this because they do not want to invest their time and energy in teaching you how to avoid those mistakes. So it's better for them to justify that security is hard because then when you look at their work and body of work they've put into the business, you realize that, okay, so it's hard. That's why we are struggling. That's why they are so anxious. Just an excuse. I don't want to rush anyone. I don't want to put anyone down from security community because we've done tremendous amounts of work. We've done plenty of great work. But I've been there, done that, and I have the courage to acknowledge the mistakes we've done. We are going to get to the specifics, finally. But this is something I want to emphasize. If I don't sell you on DevSecOps, on secure Sdlc, on doing security, it means just I suck, and that's fine, I know this. Which is why I come here to improve, to learn, to teach, to exchange the know-how. But all these concepts are magnificent, are excellent, and I really, for the past 6 years, I felt bad about myself, that I haven't decided to go out to public and talk about these things, because they are so basic. Why they were so basic? Because in 2002, Microsoft created the concept of secure Sdlc, SDL, SSDL, SSDLC, secure Sdlc. They've started doing this. Starting with Windows 2003, they started implementing secure SDL. Number of bugs dropped immediately, a ton. But it's hard to get it right. Not because it's complicated, but because it takes us, security experts, security bullshitters maybe, that's more appropriate, to leave our comfort zone and learn something more. And I'm pissed. I'm pissed because as a software engineer, I experience what you all experience when you face security engineers. I was a builder back in the old good days. And I had to face software security engineers who were testing my product and telling, guys, this is wrong, that's wrong, this could be better, all that stuff. And I feel your pain. And now, when I'm working on the other side, as a software security engineer, security architect, I want to address those problems, not just throw them at you. We have a security problem, let's solve it, not talk about solving it. That's what we used to do for decades. And we are just creating more work for you. It's stupid. Okay, I'm getting anxious about other people getting anxious, so let's move. People ask me, why another buzzword? Why DevSecOps? Some call it SecDevops. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Shouldn't DevOps address security as well? So we had this fantastic manifesto. It's not a public manifesto. It's not an official manifesto. Someone written this down. I decided I'm going to steal it and say this is official manifesto, but it's not. So just justifying myself, I steal other stuff, which we are going to talk about later. What Devops Manifesto was essentially about. Okay, that's some bullshit. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Fantastic. Finally, we can work together. Don't use redundant tools. We don't want to bureaucracy. All that stuff sounds perfect. Working systems over comprehensive documentations. Fantastic. Finally, we don't need to write this down. Finally, we don't need to create this stupid documentation that gets obsolete so quickly. Awesome. That sounds convincing, right? Responding to change over following a plan. Awesome. We don't want to waste time on stupid maintenance. We just want to put it out there, have it working, have it functional. Fantastic. So this is how DevOps should look like. And there is a person, imagine that, there is a person on the planet that created this image in a good faith. They really have read something like this, and they thought that this is an ideal representation of DevSecOps world. How many of you work in organizations that have DevOps department or do DevOps? Awesome. So how many of you feel like your organization do DevOps, not just talk about DevOps? Awesome. So there is a difference, because when I look at most companies, IT companies, this is what I see. So it was meant to be fantastic, what most companies done, especially human resources and all these fantastic people that are meant to help us in organizations. They said, okay, so we have sysadmins, we have software engineers, let's just name them DevOps, and everything else will follow. So not really. It doesn't work that way. Although it looks promising on CV, on resume, it's greater if you name yourself DevOps instead of old and lazy sysadmins. So responding to change over following a plan. And reality is this. What we became is firefighters. We could innovate much faster. We could use all those great principles from Devops Manifesto and actually make our life better. Because all that's written here is actually great. When you look at this, it's convincing. It's persuading. It could actually work, and some companies, believe it or not, implemented this. Haven't started talking about this, but actually implemented this. They make a lot of money. The employees are satisfied. So why couldn't we do this? Because it takes work. Not a single human being likes to work when he's not pushed to, unless he's crazy or she's crazy, which I am, and that's fine. Which is why people coming to conferences like this are out to push the industry forward. Because most of the people don't want change, and that's fine, because as human beings, we don't want to waste our energy and time on doing something that's not necessary. But innovation is necessary. Growth of societies is necessary. Yeah, we are growing, it's fine, it's cool, so we are getting all this new fancy software and tools. We have new startups every year, but it's not quick enough. Not for me. We could do so much better. So DevOps was promising. It was fantastic. But it just became another name for positions of sysadmins and software engineers. Not good enough for me, not good enough for most of you, because when you go to work, you still have the same frustration and anxiety you used to have in the past. So who gives a damn about your position being changed if you still have the same problems in the workplace? So this is not how we solve problems. That's not how we are supposed to solve problems. Which is why we decided to create DevSecOps. Let's actually embed security into DevOps processes, in any software engineering processes. Why? Because in DevOps we had all these manifestos, and we couldn't follow them, even though all that stuff was explicitly mentioned in the document. So we had it written down. You read it, you are supposed to follow this, right? Awesome. And then someone approaches me and say, hey, so why do we create a new term for DevSecOps? Because if we weren't able to do what was written down, how do we expect people to do something that wasn't even written down? How do we want people to do security if it wasn't written there. So this is how security looks like in DevOps world. You do a lot of stuff, and I get to clean it up, which is not the most fascinating thing on the planet. It's cool because the paycheck is there, and it's going to be there for a very long time, but I don't want to spend my life doing this. And most of you don't want to do this either. So we tell ourselves it's fine, it's good enough, it's awesome, it's fantastic. We do work we like, and that's fine. But when faced with an opportunity to improve and take your life to the next level, you're eager to do this. So there is some discomfort, but at the end of the day, we want to actually improve. So couldn't we do something like this? We work together, actually work together, not just poop on each other, and bring this product to the masses, which is what we are supposed to be doing. I know many of us focus on just doing the work for the sake of doing this, instead of focusing on doing our work to achieve something bigger. So I see many people, myself included, I'm not razzing anyone else, I succeed as well, I'm a human being, unfortunately, as well. So we are supposed to go there, collaborate, okay, so here is DevOps, here is software engineer, here is security folk, we discuss stuff, we come up with some great solutions to our problems. We deliver the product. What do we do on a daily basis? We just do our work without focusing on this bigger goal. We follow some tactics and strategies, but they are not effective. So this is what used to happen in security world for a very long time. And let's move forward. So this is DevSecOps. Why? Because we can, so why not do this? There is a risk, obviously, that this approach, similarly to DevOps, is going to put some of us out of business, because we are going to automate so much stuff that we won't be ever needed, which is why every one of us should improve our competencies to become better at our craft. But we cannot hold the innovation just because we don't want to put in the work. So I started publishing, it's around, I know it's off topic, but I started creating videos convincing people to join IT industry because it's one of the best industries to be in. Fairly easy money, I know it takes effort, but compare it to other physical jobs or other jobs when you need to put in 10 years of studying to become a doctor or lawyer. IT is a great place to be. And people started razzing me and telling, hey, but you shouldn't be telling to people. I don't want to work with people that are junior to me. I don't want to work with people that have no passion. And to me, it's like, hey, believe it or not, but programming is like building 2.0. We are just builders. That's what we are supposed to be, to push this society and civilization forward. And just because you don't want to learn something doesn't mean everyone is going to wait for you. Because there are people, there are companies that are going to do this, that are going to do all those things regardless whether you want it or not. And you are seeing this at plenty of companies. For example, Netflix, Spotify, Facebook, fantastic companies that implement actual DevOps practices, DevSecOps practices, so we can nationally complain and bitch around and moan that we don't want juniors to join our industry. Or we can just get to work, learn new skill, learn our craft, become better, and do something for the well-being of humanity. So DevSecOps is all about people, all about that collaboration. So I did this weird thing with sitting here, so that's this. DevOps was supposed to be the same thing. Not we flip our position names, we actually collaborate to build something greater. DevSecOps is precisely the same thing. You are supposed to talk to people and figure out the best solution. But I know we work in IT for a reason, and this is one of the reasons. We join IT not to talk to people, not to collaborate with people. And I know some people get easily offended, and I'm like, hey, so the same applies to me. I would much more prefer to sit at my home right now and just do stuff, cut the paychecks, and not bother about anything else. But to be effective and to build something great, we got to unite. Whether you like working together, whether you don't like society, that's how we've built all we've got today, by collaborating, by exchanging knowledge, exchanging know-how, and coming to this point. So there is a savior for you, which is secure Sdlc. So there is a difference, very slight difference, but maybe very meaningful for you. Secure Sdlc is building all these processes, all these fantastic things that focus mostly on automation to improve security and resilience of your code, products, infrastructure, anything. And it doesn't involve this human factor. Obviously, some of those parts involve a human factor. That's cool, but not as much as DevSecOps. And DevSecOps is nothing else than agile DevOps, agile security in DevOps world, and DevOps was supposed to be nothing else but agile IT operations connected to software engineering. So let's dive into secure Sdlc, because most people are interested in this. Not talking to people, not convincing people to do their job. They want to get the job done without bothering much about communication. So this is something we used to do as a security industry specifically, which was we gathered people to a room and started preaching them security. And this was the effect at most of those meetings. And I was there as a person that was teaching. And previously, before that, I was a person that was receiving the training. And it sucks. Many of you work in corporations or in startups that have broken culture of corporations, dysfunctional corporations, and you know how those corporate trainings are being rolled out. They just preach something to you, you don't even listen, and then they expect you to follow something, but you don't want to follow because you weren't listening at that moment. So we could do much better if we optimize all this stuff, if we actually started working on practicality of our activities. So instead of me looking from perspective of software security engineer at how we could do something, I should put myself into your shoes and think, what could we do to make your life easier, not harder? And there is a couple of resources. So let's talk about this training and education, because everything starts with education. We can either wait for the end of Sdlc to catch bugs, to identify bugs and fix them, or we can stop them from happening in the first place. So to me, the second one is more convincing because we save money. As someone who's reporting to the board of directors, I must show them KPIs and show them that we saved money, that we haven't burned so much money. Most companies don't bother because most companies, especially startups, aren't using their own money. So if you have venture capital funding, you just don't bother with optimization. It's not your money anyway, so why would you do that? So education, what could be done better to make sure our code and products are more secure? OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. How many of you have heard about this? OWASP. OWASP. Awesome. Awesome. For who? Not for you, not for myself. I just like saying awesome. Whose fault it is? It's not your fault because you have your own duties. Software engineers, software testers, you have so much stuff to be done continuously on daily basis, and you want to learn so much stuff in your area of interest that you don't want to come to home and learn about security. Why would you ever do that? If no one is expecting you to do it, no one is paying you for it, and all the experience you had so far with security training was that it was stupid and silly and not practical and boring, it was consuming a lot of time, why would you want to learn security? It's all on us. Security community, security engineers. You weren't practical enough. We used to learn about security and consume resources on security for 10 years. In my experience, in my situation, it's 6-7 years learning about security to be where I am now. And when I go to the corporate training, how stupid of me it would be if I required you to learn all that stuff in 1 week. So it took me 7 years of being a rock star, right? So I know security, I'm an expert, I'm a guru. Whoa, awesome. It's not. And then I want to push this onto you and have you learn all about that stuff within 1 week. It's not practical at all. It's stupid. But there are resources that could help you. So this is for security code review. Software engineers who raised hands before, how many of you have read this document? Awesome, fantastic. There is some hope, but it's not enough. It's not enough because mostly it's not that this document is complicated. It's not complicated. It's about software. If you're a software engineer, you know this about stuff in this document better than myself. You know all that. You have all it takes. You just weren't made aware. And your business haven't expected you to learn all this stuff. So why would you do this? You just weren't aware. Why would you do that? How many of you here were required at some point to fix a security issue? That's bothering. That's not awesome and fantastic at all. Because if you haven't been asked to fix security issues, there may be two reasons for this. One is that you haven't had your product tested for security, which is wrong. Or security engineers decided to fix those issues themselves, which is one of the most stupid things our industry was doing for a very long time. They assumed that if they fix the issue as a security engineer, it's going to be fixed better. But there is a huge learning opportunity and training opportunity in delegating security fixes to all of you. If you've written the code and I fix the issue for you, you are going to make the same mistake in the future. If you made a mistake and I come to you and politely ask you to fix this and explain how this could be done better in the future, you are going to do better in the future. Maybe not the second time, maybe not the third time, but finally you are going to do this. Because you want your code to be better, some of you want your work just to be better and be meaningful, and sometimes just to get rid of me. But the end goal is achieved anyways. Secure code review. Why it's expensive but still effective. You read this once, you gain a lot of knowledge, but it's 224 pages. 40 pages of security engineers who written this document, boosting their egos and jerking off to each other, how great you are, we written this document, all that stuff. The rest is pure learning experience with code samples. So when you have snippet, it's maybe like 70 pages of actual security content. So, but it's still a lot, right? Next resource. For software testers, it's a guideline, about 200 pages, the same story. How to test software against security flaws. If you are a software engineer, security engineer, if you are a software tester, you read this document once, and you can essentially replace 80% of security workforce. Because there is nothing extraordinary about our work. How do we learn security? Let's get to the basics. How do we learn this? We go to OWASP, we take this document, which is a free PDF, we learn all that stuff, we join the corporation, and we perform those tests. That's it. If I've learned it, you can learn it too. So this is cool. This is less expensive because it's about testing. Testing in general is less expensive. You have samples how to test something. You don't need to be that much creative. OWASP Top 10. How many of you have heard about OWASP Top 10? OK, that's much better. But it still hurts because just a couple of weeks ago, I've published 5.5 hours of training in Polish about OWASP Top 10. It's online on my YouTube channel. It's for free. And still people don't bother. That's cool. It's all about awareness. It's not that it's tough. It's about awareness in your personal lives, but also about awareness that your business requires this. Your business wants you to do this, but very often your executives aren't aware that they really want you to know this. So this is cool, this is fine. Classes of security risks, you can learn what may go wrong, and that's fantastic. And OWASP Application Security Verification Standard. How many of you have heard about this? Raise your hands higher. Go on, give it to me. So this is something fascinating because this one takes time, a lot of time. And this one takes a couple of minutes per couple of hours of work. So you develop a software, you want to check it against most common security flaws. You go to this document, you pop out this document, you have a checklist what should be checked in a given category of software. So you've done something with authorization, authentication, you have a document that teaches you how things should be done to be made secure. So awareness once again, you can Google that stuff out. But that's not the OWASP demo. That's boring, that's good enough. And it still takes a lot of time. And I get it. You don't have time to Google out security documents. But you have time to go to such a document, to go to such website, and create a story about what software you're writing. And this software will generate you testing scenarios for the software you've written. You're writing a functionality that's allowing logins, it's using sessions, maybe JSON Web Tokens, for God's sake. It's using some other technology. You write it here, and you are going to receive a report telling you precisely what should be checked. That's easy. But once again, awareness. Many of you haven't heard about this. Many of you have security team in your organizations that was too lazy to deploy this because they don't believe in it. They don't believe you can learn this, you can use this. And yet, they haven't tried this ever. Another platform from Slack, I believe. Yeah, Slack. It's called Go SDL, Go Secure Development Lifecycle. So Microsoft done this in 2002. Slack, huge corporation, successful. They're teaching us and preaching about all that stuff. They released this year. So it's like, it's cool. And how community reacted to this release of this tool? Everyone was like, wow, Slack is on top of the game. It's awesome, it's fantastic. They've released this. Now we can produce software securely. And to me, it's like, why are you doing this to me? This is something that was known from 2002. It's all about awareness, which is why I'm here. There's no rocket science. There is nothing extraordinary. It's just to tell you that it's easy. My job is easy. I'm doing this. They are paying me for this. If I'm capable of doing this and charging quite a nice money for this, you can definitely do this too. So let's go through that Sdlc flow and see how it's supposed to look like. What tools can we employ to secure our continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines? How many of you implement Agile in your organization? Awesome. How many of you have some sort of continuous integration and continuous delivery? Which is not human-based. It's not like you have continuous because you have so many people outsourced in India that jump on the servers and install the software. So actual automated stuff. Awesome. So if you have it automated, then it takes a couple of minutes to improve the safety of each phase of the Sdlc. I'm not going to sell you that it's going to be enough to secure the product, but because it's not. It's like telling, OK, so if you use those tools, our product will be stable and integral. We won't need to do any manual testing. It's bullshit. I know very often we are being sold the same story. Hey, so let's use those tools. Let's use a lot of automation. Let's convert all of our manual software testers to automated, and our software will get much higher quality, which doesn't work that way. We can automate only stuff that we have identified manually before. The same story here. But what's fantastic about this is that in the whole war for security in the past few decades, we've identified a ton of security issues. So you were able actually to automate some of them. Planning and threat modeling. Let's take a look quickly how we could secure all these phases. Planning, your product owner comes to you and tells you, hey, so this is supposed to be done. We need this feature. And how often you ask product owner, why do we need this feature? You're like, OK. She told me to do so, I'm going to do so. How often your product owners know a damn thing about software engineering? Not that often. If you're lucky, maybe that's the case. If someone here is a product owner, I'm sorry, but you've earned it. So for planning, there is one thing, threat modeling, that you should implement that's not necessary. If you don't want to talk to people, you can skip this part, but it would be awesome if you do this. What's threat modeling? And everyone is like, wow, threat modeling, what's about? It's just creating a graph of all the components in your feature. You create circles, squares, rectangles, and arrows that create all those connect all those components and link them, so you can actually visualize the attack surface. So you know, OK, so we have database that's going to be connected to this endpoint. We are going to have this front-end technology. Now we at least know what we are using. And if we know what we are using, we can secure this, we can test it. If we don't know what we are using, how are we supposed to test this? You can skip this part. It's hard, it's awesome, but it's not necessary. Let's focus on code, build, testing, release, deploy, operations. Let's go to this slide. So good artist copy, great artist steal. I've put it here just to justify that I've stole this slide, but that there is something important in here. Many people ask me, hey, so CI/CD security, it's not that easy, it's complicated, there is a lot of tools involved. How do I start? Which do I choose? You Google out CI/CD security, you see those graphs, you take a look at each part, and you see that, hey, so someone for code analysis used find bugs. Fantastic, why cannot you use that? Steal ideas, do not steal work, which was the original intent of this quote made by Picasso. Steal ideas and implement them at your companies. You want to perform dynamic testing? You have those tools ready. What you are waiting for? For permission to do this? For someone to come to you and tell you what should be done? All those tools are very easy to implement. You just download the binary, You just put it into Jenkins, Tavis, whatever you're using, GitLab CI, and whenever there is a build coming, you run all these tools. So software engineer makes a commit. On each commit, you should be performing build that's running tests. I know should and current state of affairs in most companies doesn't really match up. But we should perform builds after each commit so we can catch bugs as soon as possible. So we can catch bugs as soon as possible because earlier we catch them, it's cheaper to fix them. And often the question is, hey, why it's cheaper? Why it's actually cheaper? Everyone is telling this because you don't want to get back to some old code you've written a long time ago. So when there is an issue in the production and the software engineer who written this code is on vacations, you need to either wait for him to come back or call him and ask him to fix the feature or ask other software engineer to learn the code. And fixing bugs after someone else is a terrible idea. Asking someone for do this is promised that your team is going to lose more or less if you ask them to fix code made by a coworker. So each time build is run on a commit, you run static analysis testing. So you write a code, you build a code, you run some tools. How do you run them? You Google out how to execute a binary on Jenkins. You get one-liner, some bash script maybe. You put this software, this SAST, security analysis software testing tool, you put this on the Jenkins box, and when the commit is coming in, you perform a build, and besides of all the regular testing, you just launch this new software against the commit that was sent to you. And then immediately you receive an information after a couple of milliseconds. So, okay, so we've identified those issues. That's easy. You have all these tools written here. Another slide, even better. You have much more tools, commercials and free. So how do I secure any of those phases? You look at the picture, you pick any tool, you plug it into your CI/CD, and it's done. That's how easy it is. That's how easy it is. But I'm using this and this programming language. How do I secure this? You go to Google, you write Python security testing, you received a set of tools, you received OpenStack Bandit, you run this, this is the output, you read what was printed out, you fix the issue, or you mark it as false positive, you move forward. But at least you've done something. And then we go to dynamic application security testing, because in code we cannot find all those issues, right? We must sometimes test the application. We should be testing application that's already in the production or in testing environment, I hope. It should be at least. So we download this software, which is free, OWASP Zap. We run this. We receive an information about at least basic security issues. So if you haven't ever fixed the security issues because you haven't raised a hand before, then you haven't run this tool. Because I promise you, if you have a product, you would run this tool for the first time you have stuff to fix. You have a lot of stuff to fix. Running these tools, binary, 5 minutes, you have some findings that improve the security posture of your product. You buy this is better, $200, $300 per year. You deploy this, much richer set of tools, test cases, better insights into your software quality. This is a slide from 2012, when some fantastic gentleman on Selenium conference, which is a testing conference, obviously, proposed this. You have any tests written already in Selenium, maybe in WebDriver? What you do, you write 5 lines of code that connect all your tests to this software, in this case, OWASP Zap, that's running on localhost 8080. OWASP Zap is nothing else as a proxy. You just proxy your traffic, and it's going to run those tests. So you deploy OWASP Zap, you point your Selenium to forward traffic through this proxy, and it's going to learn about your application. It's going to learn about all those endpoints you are already testing as a tester. You've built some test cases, you've built some code base to perform tests. You just deploy this one tool, one binary, set the proxy, and it's done. You have vastly improved the security coverage of your product. That's how easy it is. 2012, how many people raised hands and told me, hey, I know what this tool is. I've used this. Not many. Awareness, it's really easy. It's simple. Try this at home. Okay, but you showed us a couple of links, a couple of tools. But we have much more technology, frameworks, and infrastructure, and all that stuff. So what do? You write OWASP and your programming language. You get a list of tools. I'll share this presentation with better links, or you just Google it out. You have a list of tools that could be implemented into your existing processes to secure your pipeline. 1 slide, second, third, fourth, fifth, from the same page. And some people said to me, okay, but secure Sdlc, you've taught us only about code, you wasted so much time, you stole so much time talking about code, what about infrastructure? The same thing, you want to secure Google Cloud Project, you want to secure some services you've deployed in GCP, you go to Google, you write security GCP, you receive those tools, Forseti Security, Security Monkey, Netflix, Spotify, and Google. It's already built container, already built VM to test all that stuff. Back to containers. You want to test Docker, Kubernetes? Someone of you I've heard in the lobby said, wow, it's so hard to test Kubernetes. Because you haven't even Googled it, how to test them. If you had Googled them, you would receive links to those tools, ClayOS, Docker Bench, Kubernetes Bench. People read in those tools. You are not innovating. In security space, you are not innovating. If I'm talking about something today, there are people much smarter than myself, much smarter, that have done all that work before. So, I know it's overwhelming. There is a lot of stuff to be done, right? Security isn't easy. Testing isn't easy. But 1% done today is better than 0% done in the future. Every one of us is waiting for this great thing. Is saying, wow, so if there is so much stuff to be done, there is so many tools to be integrated, let's wait for the resources until we can actually implement them. It's not going to happen. We have so much technical debt at each company, we don't have energy. After a couple of years working in some organization, we just don't give a damn about our organization, so we are not going to wait for this, we are not going to work after hours. But if you just take one tool today and put it into your CI/CD, maybe just put it on your PC, point IP address of your version control system, of your application, and test something, you are going to get results. So speed matters. At each startup, speed matters. If you work in startup, you know what's the pressure on doing stuff. You shouldn't be waiting for the ideal opportunity because it's not going to happen. Neither in life, personal, professional, it's all the same thing. There's no ideal moment to do something. And what about manual security? That's so obvious. Everyone is doing this. We are spending so much money on this already, so that's trivial. I don't want to waste your time even more to talk about that stuff. So manual security testing is required to automate some stuff, especially when it comes to context issues. So this is important. And a couple of decades, what we've tried, what I've tried, what many of my peers tried. So we've tried paying a lot of money to penetration testing companies. We've spent a lot of money on drugs, on alcohol, which is also a drug. We started to hate the world because our work is pointless. If we are spending so much time and energy on saving our organization and still we have 5 billion password leakages, that sucks. So why our work even matters? It can matter if you approach it in sane way, in practical way, when you actually see some incremental changes. And when we look at this average organization that's hiring one security engineer and 100 software engineers, it's not feasible for that person to secure the code product company. It's just not going to happen. Never. There is no such option. And you as a software testers know this very well. 2 testers in the company, 50 software engineers, good luck testing all that stuff. And then when something happens, when the product is broken and there is an escalation ticket, who gets the blame? Software tester, you haven't tested this. If you had collaborated, then at least responsibility would be shared. So think about that stuff. Do something, and it's all about awareness. This was Secure Sdlc. In a couple of weeks, I'm publishing this book. It's not sales meeting, this is free, this is going to be free. I want to share with you a ton of lessons, only 60 pages, something like this. I'm tired of writing and talking, so this is why it's brief, it's short, almost as me. So if you want to learn how to talk to people so you don't get hurt, if you want to learn how to implement DevSecOps without getting hurt, burnt out, because I know working with some people is tough, working with ourselves is tough, living with ourselves is tough, what about other people? You can download this on my blog. Here are the links, and learn how to talk with people, how to collaborate with people to achieve greater return. But if you don't want to do this, fuck this book, fuck me. I know I'm not attractive, you don't want to fuck with me, but just ignore me and do something from those slides. Do something if you care about security because it's simple. If I can do this, you can do this, because not a single one here of us is special. We want to believe you are, but we are not at all. If we collaborate, if you do something together, maybe we can build something special, but fighting with each other and saying, oh, it's software engineer blame, let's blame software engineer, let's blame software tester, let's blame God, let's blame drugs, let's blame I don't know who, then it's not going to happen. So automate, because it's increasing the coverage, it's decreasing the risks, it's fancy, it's cool, it's nice to have, and also it's worth it. So I've stole so much of your time that I'm going to stay 1 hour longer. If you want to beat me up, that's cool, I get it. So that's it, thank you very much.